if it loads.
Welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of Runnin on Scuffs. I am your host, coming to you live from the Scuffs studio here in Mississippi, Justin Seeger, and I am joined tonight by a bit of a skeleton crew. We've got a couple folks missing, but don't worry, we've got that covered. First and foremost, by the personality to my right. Mr. Dan Foster, our resident Florida man. Dan, how you doing tonight, and what is with the shirt?
You know, I have this goal of getting one from every NASCAR team, and I've really been missing my buddy Logan. So I figured, you know what, maybe this will bring me closer to him. Well, no, we can reminisce about the good old days of hanging out with our buddy Logan.
I guess that might work. I don't know why you felt like you had to stoop so low to do that. I respect the team, wanting to support the team franchise, because you refuse to accept the fact that Trackhouse is your team. I get that, but I don't know if this is the best way to go about it, but you know what? We'll work through it over the course of the next hour anyway. Hello to Mama Seeger in the comments. We do have our show producer and our good buddy Logan's better half, Peyton Moore, in the down below. Peyton, what do you make of Dan's decisions here?
When I saw Dan's shirt, I said, "Dan, why do you have that?"
Hey, so I'm with you.
What was your exact word? You're right.
I don't even have one of those, and I'm engaged to Logan.
Well, I hope he knows this is what true love really is. Just saying.
Well, maybe so. And I think, I guess if we're going to...
Thanks, Marley. Love you too.
I guess if we're going to... maybe it does mean true love. Maybe it will bring you closer to Logan. It's certainly going to bring you a little bit closer to him tonight, because I actually have a bit of a surprise. Logan is actually here with us. And Dan is, and let's bring on, joining us from the Racing Angle podcast, Mr. Logan Morris, otherwise known as Loganity. He's here with us.
Dan, I am just so full of your love right now. My cup runneth over. I couldn't possibly take another drop. Great to see you all. Great to be here on Running on Scuffs. And you have never looked sexier. Nathan had better look out. Let me tell you. It's all the friends and neighbors around you better look out, because I'm about to go full Florida man over here.
Come on down, buddy.
Yeah.
Peyton, I guess you can make a stop down in Mississippi, and you can hang out with Marley and I for a while.
I'm gonna have to.
Anyways, we've got Logan joining us for a great show tonight. We've got this has been in the works for a while. We were going to have Logan on a couple weeks ago, and of course, some off the scene things happened, so that was an impossibility. But Logan, we're glad to have you on the show this week, ready to talk some Vegas and a little bit of Darlington. As well. We'll be previewing that, and I know that's a track that you enjoy. So we're glad to have you on the show, bud.
Glad to be here, my friend. Can't wait to break down Vegas and get into Darlington. And hi, Marley. Good to see you. And I just can't quit staring at Dan Foster. He might be wearing your anniversary present, Peyton. I got to tell you. I mean, it's just a little add to cart might be coming my way right here. Come April. I got a good feeling about it. Oh, man, because if it looks that good on him, it's going to look even better on you. This is good stuff.
Peyton, I got to say, being in that producer role, you do have the power to separate the two of them throughout the show. So, I mean, that's in your power. You want to do that. But we have a great show planned for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about Las Vegas. We've got quite a few topics that have sprung up from Vegas. And then we've got a couple of Scuffs stories to talk about, and then we'll preview Darlington coming up. So if you're not already, be sure to hit the like button on this episode. That gets more people comments and more opinions that we get to talk about. So that's always a fun thing. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or X, or TikTok. All of our websites, or our social media platforms, and our website. Be sure to do all that good stuff. And Mama Seeger's a fan of Logan in the chat as well. So Logan's got some fans.
It's great to see you too, Mama Seeger. I hope you're doing well. God bless you. I pray for you.
We're ready to rock and roll here. Logan, I need you to take your eyes off of Dan just for a little bit here. I know it's hard, but we've got some Vegas to talk about. So let's hop right into our race review segment. All right, so Peyton steps off to the back to run the show, make sure that we mind our P's and Q's, if you will. But it's time to roll the dice because we have some Las Vegas to talk about. And as usual, let's kick it off first by talking about the winner of Las Vegas, the same song, different verse, the fall winner from Las Vegas, who picked up his 60th career win. Denny Hamlin holds off Chase Elliott late in the race to pick up win number 61 on the career, his first of 2026. Dan, I'm going to go to you first on this. What were your thoughts on Denny Hamlin getting the first win of 2026?
I was excited for him. I know this is a good close moment for him and his family. I know he was, a little bummed out his dad wasn't there to see it, but always happy to, see a sentimental win. Not always a fan favorite, but sentimental win. And to just, see him get another win on it. He's already in the top 10 on the most wins list. So, I mean, I think by the end of the season, he could get 3 more maybe and really be up there with 65 wins. And I think that would be, something that a lot of people don't expect nowadays. I think a lot of people think 50 wins and that's about it. You're going to get modern day NASCAR. But I think this is a good win for Denny, and honestly, he kind of dominated the day, in my opinion. So, I think it was a great week for him.
Yeah, ultimately a very, very solid win for Hamlin, and especially to do it late over a hard charging Chase Elliott. Really strong performance from Chase, but ultimately it was Hamlin who seemed to have the best all around car. Even after overcoming some mistakes to get to that point. So ultimately, Hamlin getting the checkered flag. And it like Dan said, it was a sentimental win. Number 60 was a sentimental win, but obviously this one was different for a lot of different reasons. So, Logan, I'm going to go get your take on this. What do you think of Denny Hamlin getting win number 61 on the career, putting him 10th on the all-time wins list?
Look, I've never been a big Denny Hamlin guy by any stretch, but it's impossible to root against him right now after everything he's been through. You gotta really be it's a little early for Christmas references, but you gotta be one hell of a Scrooge to be kind of rooting against Denny Hamlin right now. Now, I'm sure a lot of people in kind of Chase Elliott Nation were rooting against him, but hopefully, when you saw that moment with his mom, I mean, it's hard not to get choked up thinking about it, given that she was in that tragic fire that took the life of his father, and she had pretty severe injuries by all accounts as well. 61 wins. I don't know if you'll ever see it again, at least under the current kind of format of NASCAR and where we're going and all that. Obviously, the landscape will change over the next 5 to 10 years and so on and so forth, and who knows what the sport will look like. But if it keeps going at the trajectory it's going, I don't know if you'll ever see 61 wins again. Kyle Busch has got 63. He's the active leader. Denny Hamlin looks poised to surpass that by a decent margin. We'll see what happens, but just really incredible. And really, the whole weekend was dominated by Toyotas, right? They looked good in practice. They looked good in qualifying. And then Denny Hamlin did what he did last year at Vegas. And, really his good year continues, because if you think about it, in some ways, he's got 4 out of 5 wins, right, as the co-owner of 23XI. But I just think it's a great story, and good that I'm so happy for him that his mother was there, and just a real full circle moment. And again, what really sticks out to me is I'm not sure we'll ever see 61 wins again. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but I have a hard time believing it's from anybody in the field right now. So really historic.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Hamlin ultimately, like you said, Logan, it's a very feel-good win. It's hard not to root for Denny Hamlin at this moment, especially seeing the embrace with his family. I noticed on his daughter's face that the emotion was there for sure, getting that win, and it just means a lot to the Hamlin family right now. Not that winning doesn't mean something to every driver who does it, but it just means a little more for Hamlin right now. And for him to get his first win this season, where he picked up his last win last season, it seems kind of fitting. Marley and Mama Seeger making comments about that in the comments as well when I acknowledge that. I see the setup man, who's typically on the panel here. He's kind of making questions about the handsome guy with the goatee that always has the insightful comments. I'm not sure where Mike is tonight, but nonetheless, no, I'm kidding, Tom. We miss you, buddy, but we know you're out there hanging out with family, and that's always cool. So we'll catch you next time around. I'm sure I'll catch some flack for that next week. But no. Speaking of which, Logan, Dan, I'm going to go to you with this. I've noticed since Denny Hamlin got the win, he's now at 61. He was already tied with Harvick for 10th on the all-time wins list, but now he solely has that lock and key. So the question now has been posed: how many wins does Denny Hamlin get before he's done? His current contract runs through the end of the 2027 season. Likely that he will be done after that. He's kind of talked that this will probably be his last contract. So basically still 2 full seasons in front of him with the remainder of this year and all of next year. How many wins does he get? What win total does he find himself with at the end of his career? I've seen some different opinions on this, and Dan, I want to get yours.
I mean, if last year's any indication, I mean, he still has the fire in him, so he could definitely rip off multiple wins a season. Right now, he's sitting at 61. I think 3 or 4 more this year, so we'll say he gets to 65 by the end of the season. I feel like 70 is a stretch, so I'm going to say 68, 69 wins. That'll bump him up to 9th place. He'll pass Kyle Busch, who is currently at 63. So, yeah, I think overall, about 68, 69 wins. I feel like if he's only running next year after next year full time, he'll be done. Then I think 70 is just a little bit out of reach.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. My heart wants to give him 70, but I don't know if he gets there. I think it's north of 65, but I think it's kind of south of 70 by a close margin. Logan, what are your thoughts on that? How many wins does Hamlin get before he's done?
Usually I'm pretty contrarian with you gentlemen, but I got to agree with both of you. I do. I think he just misses the 70 mark. Assuming that he doesn't do one more contract with JGR. I don't believe that'll happen, but stranger things certainly have. So I'm going to say the over-under is about 66, 67. Keep in mind, we're in such a parity era, number one, and he is only getting older, and sometimes you can lose the mojo quickly. Jimmy Johnson kind of comes to mind. He just kind of stopped winning out of nowhere. I don't think that's happening here, but 70 feels a little too far if he's just going to do this year and next as far as his full-time career goes. I'm going to say somewhere around 67, 68 tops. Again, we're in such a parity era, and he's not getting any younger. And so just all those sort of things. I think both you gentlemen are pretty dead on.
I think I got to say, I think, shout out to a couple friends, John Carter. Look, bud, we're currently in a March Madness group, and my bracket has already busted. So hoping that some of my teams stay alive on that. My grandfather Harvey said Denny's a name that he's familiar with. He thinks he may get to 65 in the next 2 years. I think that's solid. I mean, certainly if we see Denny fall off a cliff, next year. One question I want to bring up to the two of you is with Denny Hamlin. We don't see this very often. But since Denny Hamlin's the co-owner of 2311, there is a possibility that he could run part-time for his own team after his time with JGR is done. If he does, do we think he has a possibility to win in that? Do we think that his full-time career at JGR is his last chance to get a win? Dan, what's your thoughts on that? Dan cannot seem to unmute himself. Question mark. All right. Well, Logan, why don't you take the reins on that one, and we'll see what Dan can do with that.
Yeah, I'll spin the clock here a second while he's figuring things out. Look, let's say he runs a part-time entry for 2311 post 2027, I think he could win. Hot take. 2311 right now is clicking on all cylinders. We know that. We know they got the money. We know they got the funding. And unlike, I think the best thing we can compare this to right now is Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson has had to unlearn everything he knew about the old car for this car, and so I think that is a big reason as to why he has struggled so mightily, on top of the fact that Legacy has never been hasn't been top tier equipment pretty much in any iteration for the last 40 plus years. And so I think when you factor in that 2311 is on the rise, and you factor in all the sponsorship, all the money, the Michael Jordan support, and all those things, and again, Denny will have a plethora of experience for this car and this era that is treating him better than arguably any era ever has. Yeah, I absolutely think that he could win on a part-time basis at his kind of wheelhouse tracks. What are his wheelhouse tracks? We're talking Daytona. We're talking Darlington. He can win this weekend. We're running a stretch right now where he could win. He could win every week, and it wouldn't be surprising. He can win Darlington. We know how great he is at the Southern 500, and he can win Martinsville. We've seen that before. He can win Bristol. There's those kind of wheelhouse tracks for him that we know that he's a household name. Absolutely, I think he could win, let's say, for the next 5 years, even in a part-time 2311 entry, because, again, I think the biggest difference is where you kind of compare it to a Jimmy Johnson. He doesn't have to unlearn anything. He doesn't have to – yes, the lack of reps will hurt, but he doesn't have a lifetime of experience to essentially ignore in this next-gen era. So I think on top of that, and being, as good as he's been in this era, when you put that with the kind of money and the funding and the support, and he won't be too far out of the car. Jimmy Johnson was out of the car, 2 years before he came back to NASCAR. And so, yeah, I just think if he went right into a kind of Daytona 500, Southern 500, Crown Jewel schedule, he could absolutely make a run at any of those races.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I think that we have plenty of opportunity for Denny Hamlin, even if he got a handful of tracks, because we know that there are certain tracks that he's particularly good at. Dover comes to mind, Pocono comes to mind. Even maybe a home track like a Richmond or a Martinsville. I don't see any of those tracks that Denny Hamlin can't win at. To be completely honest. So, and I think 2311, like you said, Logan, has the equipment, has the ability to get to that point.
Some of that is, I don't mean to cut you off, but some of that will also come down to, hypothetically, if this happens, it comes down to how much resources do you want to put into his car versus the 2 full-time cars. And so, or the 3 full-time cars or whatever they'll have, or I don't know what their future is going to look like. And so, yeah, that's the other factor. On pure talent, on pure funding, Denny Hamlin could probably win some races for at least the next 4 to 5 years. The question is going to be, does he have a desire, number one, to run part-time for his own team? When he does, are they kind of going all out, or are they looking at it like, again, I don't mean to promote legacy ad nauseum here. It's just the only thing we can compare it to. Jimmy has been pretty clear that, yeah, he'd like to win Daytona, and that's where he thinks he can win. But every other start is data. Every other start is reps. Every other start is trying to prep for the 2 full-time cars and now the 3rd full-time car they'll have next year. And so, yeah, that's it's all the big question mark. But absolutely, if he runs for 2311 for, say, 2 or 3 years on a part-time basis, I expect him to be a contender.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Hamlin's in a great position to potentially win races after his full-time deal with Joe Gibbs Racing is up. Speaking of Joe Gibbs Racing, it was talking about Las Vegas. It was Gibbs versus Hendrick all day long, which is kind of typical for what we see for Las Vegas. To be honest, we typically see the Gibbs camp versus the Hendrick camp. Maybe you have a Penske run here or there, but certainly in this next-gen car, it's been a Gibbs or Hendrick dominated race. Maybe you throw in some 2311, a satellite, team there. But that's what we saw from Vegas. It was you either saw the Gibbs drivers up front, the Hendrick drivers up front, or both. And that's really what we saw. To be honest, and that's kind of how it ended up too. Ty Gibbs finished well. All 4 Gibbs cars finished in the top 10, and then Hendrick had 3 of their drivers competing there at the end as well. Let's talk about. I'd be remiss if it's it's my show. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Chase Briscoe, and I love to make Logan Morris talk about Chase Briscoe as well. Chase Briscoe finished 8th, but that was not the story of his day. The story of his day, they had some They had a speeding penalty early that caught them a lap down at the end of stage 1, and it took them until 50 to go to get back on the lead lap. Now, when he did get back on the lead lap, finally, Chase Briscoe found himself in in good equipment. He had a great car. He was able to work his way up through the field and get to that 8th place finishing result that we saw from it. But the topic I want to bring up with this is we talked last week, and we've talked the last couple of weeks on this show, Logan, how Chase Briscoe is in a really tough spot as far as points. He's run really well, but he's had basically nothing to show for it. And he did get a good finish, but because of the penalty, he got no stage points. And I see Dan's come back here too, so we'll get Dan's take on this too. But Logan, for Chase Briscoe, how important are the stages going to be in this format?
In this format, I think they're vital, right? I think they mean more arguably than they ever have. And so it's awful that he's had, the old saying is, if Chase Briscoe didn't have bad luck, he'd have none at all. That's how his season has kind of started. And I don't take any joy in saying that. I just think the facts are on my side on that. That being said, with the way he ran last year, and quite frankly, to give you some optimism, Mr. Seeger, what he did this week is what championship contending teams do. They battle all day and they find a way to get a decent finish out of it. Now, he needs to find a way to start putting together some big points days, no question. But we still got, let's say 30 races, and as much as it's easy to hit the panic button, it's how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. If you were to eat an elephant, you'd eat it one bite at a time. And so if you're Chase Briscoe and the entire 19 crew with Small and everybody, what you can't do is put too much pressure on every single week. You can't go, I gotta get a top 5. Right now, you gotta not get DNFs. You gotta start coupling some top 10s and get that mojo working, because momentum is a fickle mistress, and right now it's not on your side. So you got to build some of that. But yeah, the stages are important, and hopefully starting this weekend at Darlington, where he's won the Southern 500, he can kind of put together a full race week, so to speak. But at the very least, no more of those major issues that set you back for the whole day and a DNF. But again, if you're looking for optimism, and Justin, I know that you are, he did this week what championship contending teams do, and that's you battle from a setback, and you find a way to squeak a top 10 out of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, I wouldn't necessarily hit the panic button. He did gain 7 spots and points, even without the stage points. We live in a world where all you got to do is be top 16 in points to make the chase and to have a shot at the championship. So do I think, I think Chase Briscoe would have had a lot tougher time if it was the old Chase where you had to get top 10 or top 12 in points. But top 16 for a Joe Gibbs Racing team that made it to the Final Four last year, I think he should be okay with that. I don't see any reason he wouldn't be in the top 16 once we get to that 27th race. But it's something to keep an eye on. Let's roll on quick. Dan, I'm gonna bring you in on this next topic here. So we talked about Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick, kind of how they were battling throughout the day. One thing we really didn't see a lot out of were the Fords. We had some RFK Fords that looked pretty good, but the Penske Fords lacked a little. And even the RFK Fords, except for maybe Busher, we didn't see a ton out of from the day. And so one question that was posed is we're currently in a stretch where 7 races, including Phoenix and Vegas the last couple of weeks, these 7 race stretch will all be races that are in the chase later this season. Should Ford be concerned about a lack of performance at these tracks, or is it too soon to tell?
Overall, I think it's too soon to tell. Now, if we get in, the 5th or 6th race of this stretch, absolutely, we should be hitting that panic mode. But right now, 2 out of 7. I mean, you're still only, essentially a third of the schedule of those 7 races. So I think once you get about halfway, if you're still looking at like not a lot of top 5s, not a lot of the top 10s, not a lot of stage points, that's whenever you start to kind of reassess the situation and say, okay, where are we at? What do we need to do to get to where we need to be? And I think, I mean, you have Roger Penske, who's probably the most notable of the Ford owners. He's going to do everything he can to get his team back to where it needs to be. Same thing with RFK, and I think they've come a long way in the past couple seasons since Brad Kay kind of took over. I think him and Jack Roush are working really well together. Front row over. I mean, they've always been kind of a roller coaster team, but I think overall, like you're pointing at RFK and Penske and saying, "All right, you're the lead of the pack. Basically, where are we going? What are we doing?" And I think that's if we get like I said, 4 or 5 races into this stretch, okay, we really need to figure out this stuff. But right now, it's a short flat track and an intermediate. Granted, intermediates are the bread and butter of NASCAR, but for the chase, I don't think it really is too concerning at the moment.
And this kind of depends on what, certainly from a Roger Penske standpoint. I know we don't live in a win and you're in type format anymore for the playoffs. But I think Roger Penske knows he's probably unless something crazy happens, we're probably going to see at least Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney fighting for a championship. Austin Cindric, we can talk about perhaps in the Ford camp, and for the Fords in general, it looks like at least 1 or 2, if not all 3 RFK cars are going to be competing for a championship later this year. But we know how Penske is in the last 10 races. We know that they turn things on when by Roger Penske's standpoint, all I got to do is be there, and then we can talk about it. So, I think we're definitely going to be getting into a spot with Penske. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button just yet. Logan, do you have any thoughts on that?
Like you, I don't think it's time to hit the panic button just yet. I was surprised to see them not have more success at Vegas at the at the Pennzoil 400, right? Presented by Jiffy Lube. It's a sponsored track. They want to. It's a sponsored race. Pardon me. They want to have a big showing, and really they were kind of in the witness protection program as far as being up front goes. So I was surprised by that. But like you guys, I don't think it's time to hit the panic button yet. We know that Penske will have that stretch where all of a sudden they're hotter than any pepper you can think about. The question's going to be, because we're not in that winning or in format as you mentioned, Justin. The question is going to be, will it be too little, too late? You don't want to put yourself in too much of a hole, and that's part of the chess match that is the points format this year. But like you guys, again, don't make too much about nothing. But I was a little surprised not seeing them be more of a factor this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's fair. One other topic that I want to talk about, and I think if you've seen any of the fallout from Vegas, you've been waiting for us to talk about this. One other topic that we have to talk about from Vegas. A couple of former teammates had some turmoil following the race, and kind of led to somewhat of a skirmish between the two. It wasn't, people kind of got in between them before it could turn into anything crazy. But Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez got into it. And so, there's a lot of dynamic here because Suarez made some comments following the skirmish that said that their relationship has always been kind of rough, and then Ross Chastain on Sirius XM, a couple of days later, he made comments that said that Suarez, that their relationship, that the two of them just didn't really mesh well, even at their time at Trackhouse. Maybe two guys just rub each other the wrong way, and there's just nothing you can do about it. And sometimes when that comes together, I'm not sure. Dan, what do you make of this? Do you think that this is something that's been boiling over for a while, or do you think maybe there's some jealousy on Suarez's part? What's your take on this skirmish between Suarez and Chastain?
Well, my initial thought was, what the heck is Ross mad about? I went back and watched the replay, and I did not see anything that really made sense as far as to be upset. Now, if you just don't like the guy, y'all don't get along, that's one thing. But running into him after the race, it didn't make sense to me. As far as the animosity, I guess that's between them, I look at it this way. You don't always have to like each other to work well together. I have had coworkers in the past where outside of work, we don't say a word to each other, and unless it's work related, we don't talk to each other. But we work well together. We get the job done. We knock it out. We go home. Essentially, that's all you got to be in NASCAR. It's great to have team chemistry, but as far as the other drivers on your team, you don't necessarily need to do that. I think, to me, it looked very one-sided as far as the jawing at each other after the race. It looked like Ross came over and approached Daniel, and Daniel just kind of stood there like, what the heck's your problem? I don't understand why you're mad. Good on the lady who stood between them. She basically played the Berlin Wall for, a couple minutes, but overall it was kind of like a no-brainer in my opinion. I don't understand why Ross was so upset, but again, if this is something that's rolling over from last season, or the time that they were at Trackhouse together, then maybe that was some behind the scenes stuff that they did a good job of hiding. I think for the most part, NASCAR garage area kind of picks up on who doesn't like each other, even if they are teammates. I think we've had plenty of examples of that in the past with different drivers, but I don't understand where Ross is coming from with the initial being upset. But if this is something again that runs over, then I say let them have at it. Neither one of them are really going to be championship contenders. If so whatever. Let them, they want to bump into each other and have arguments on the pit road, let them do it.
Yeah, I've seen this. There's multiple takes from this of what happened between Chastain and Suarez. Some people, I've heard that Chastain, maybe he's frustrated that Trackhouse isn't as fast this season. We know Connor Zilic made some statements about that. During the race, SVG had an incident on lap 1, which was an incredible save, by the way. Shout out to SVG for that save. But he damaged his car, finished last in the race. So definitely, tough on SVG. But yeah, I think I've heard people say that maybe Suarez is a little bitter because of the departure from Trackhouse last year, that he wasn't chosen over Zilic. It could be a lot of things, and it could just be that they just don't get along, and it could be that Suarez, like you said, Dan, just wasn't didn't know what was going on. Why was Chastain over there? One thing that this is brought up though, and I feel like this happens every time we have a, I don't even know if you'd call it a fight, but it was like an almost fight between Chastain and Suarez. It always brings up the topic of, should the drivers be allowed to fight after the race? Because I know Stenhouse has made some quotes saying that people are too afraid to fight now because of the penalties that come from NASCAR. Logan, I'll go to you first, bud. What do you think? Should the drivers be allowed to fight?
I think there's two sides to this coin. I don't mean to give you a cop-out answer. From an entertainment standpoint, I would love it if they were allowed to go fisticuffs. But this isn't supposed to be about strictly entertainment. These drivers are $1 million to $1 billion investments with these sponsors and all the contracts. And if because of a kerfluffle on pit road, all of a sudden the next week at say Darlington, Daniel Suarez or Ross Chastain, as Suarez would have predicted, can't race at that track, then if I'm jockey or the Moose or whoever, I am absolutely pissed off because I paid a lot of money to because a lot of people don't realize, and we're kind of seeing this. We've seen it before, where a sponsor wants either their driver or a certain caliber of driver. That's why Jeff Gordon came out of retirement to replace Dale Jr. part-time, right? Like they want a certain caliber of driver to represent their brand if their guy's not able to do so. So from a pure entertainment standpoint, I would love it if we went full pro wrestling and fisticuffs and cutting promos, and Daniel Suarez is doing his damnedest to do that, by the way. But as much as that's cool and fun to see and exciting, there's also the safety aspect, and again, there is the major money aspect involved from the team and the sponsors and the whole deal. So again, I don't mean to give you a cop out one way or the other answer, but the reality is NASCAR is too big of a corporation now to allow going at it like the old days. There's just too many variables, and there's too many people that could get either pissed off or offended or bothered or whatever have you. Like Daniel Suarez mentioned to SiriusXM, the PR is bad and the fines. It just as Clint Boyer loves to say, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So as much as it'd be fun, it's probably the right call that they can't.
I think I definitely think NASCAR has a double standard in this, because NASCAR will penalize drivers, and we saw this. Talking about Ricky Stenhouse Jr., because the last big fight we saw was Kyle Busch and Stenhouse in the All-Star race a couple years ago. And Stenhouse got fined $75,000 for the incident, and yet NASCAR decided to put it in all of their promotional packages for like the next half year to a year. So and it's like, hey, this is what you see when you come watch NASCAR. So I think NASCAR has a double standard when it comes to this, because it's either wrong or it's not wrong, and you either want your drivers to stay off of each other, and you be professional, or you want them to fight and give you promotional content. There's a reason we still talk about the 1979, Daytona 500, and there was a fight, because it added to that. But anyways, we'll talk there and beyond that. We've got to continue on from our race review segment. Just a quick on the looking lower. Kyle Larson picked up the win in the O'Reilly Series at Vegas. He was looking for the weekend sweep. Couldn't quite get that on Sunday, but he did pick up an O'Reilly win. Virginia Motorsports there. Real quick, let's hop into our Scuff Stories segment. We've got a couple of big ones to talk about, so let's hop into that. So, in the instance of time, I'm going to I'm going to go to one of you we've got two big stories to talk about. I'm going to get one of your opinion on one of them, and I'm going to get the other's opinion on the other one. Because I've been in conversations with both of you over the course of the week, and I know that both of you have some opinions here. First and foremost, Alex Bowman. It was announced that he will be missing the next 3 races due to his continuing battle with vertigo symptoms. So thoughts and prayers continue to be with Bowman and hopeful for his recovery. And Justin Allgaier will fill in on that. So Logan, I'm going to go to you on this one. What are your thoughts on? I know you've had some a little bit of worry and concern on your end about what this might mean for Bowman beyond the next 3 races. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, like you said, send the best wishes and thoughts and prayers, and want him to get back and get well and get in his 48 Chevrolet, hopefully after these next 3 races. But I am deeply concerned that this is spelling the end of at least his Hendrick career, if not his full-time career. This gives me big-time Dale Jr. vibes, big-time Kurt Busch vibes. And I know that people will say, well, Dale Jr. came back to compete for a championship, and he did, but he still didn't get to go out on his own terms, right? And so this just feels, I don't mean to play conspiracy theorist here or get on a tinfoil hat, but we last saw him, looking not so great after Coda. Myatt Snyder had to sub in, and then now he's got vertigo for these last several weeks. And this just feels like a snowball effect, right? And so I'm concerned about his long-term viability in the car. And at the very least, I think this is the worst outcome for his long-term viability at Hendrick. We all know we're getting kind of close to potentially that relationship has ran its course. And if you're Alex Bowman, you don't want to leave Hendrick. It's Hendrick Motorsports. You can win any single week. And so I think this is just the absolute worst case scenario for him on so many different levels. I mean, his championship chances are zilch. I mean, he'd have to go on the run of runs to even think about getting 16th. And that's if these next 3 races are it. And again, we hope they are, but I mean, we don't know. And so I'm deeply concerned about his long-term viability in the car, period. But certainly I think this could be one of those things where out of sight, out of mind, you can't tell me that Mr. H and Jeff Gordon aren't potentially thinking about what a post-48 car Alex Bowman looks like right now. Because, again, the worst thing you can be is out of sight, out of mind. All of a sudden someone's got to replace you, do this, do that, and you're just – it's you all remember back in school if you'd miss a couple of days because you get a bad cold or the flu or whatever, everything just kind of kept moving, and then you had to come back in 2 or 3 days and catch up. And I mean, imagine that on some serious steroids with NASCAR. Everything keeps going, and Alex Bowman is for lack of a better term kind of frozen in time right now. Certainly wishing my best to him, and I'm certainly hoping that my concerns are, in the words of Bill Shakespeare, much ado about nothing. But I don't feel very confident about his long-term viability, certainly at Hendrick and maybe in the car overall.
Yeah, I agree. I think this goes one of 2 ways for Bowman as far as his future with Hendrick is concerned. Assuming he can come back and compete health-wise, I think either this convinces Hendrick to give him another shot because he didn't get the fair season, or maybe this kind of puts the nail in the coffin for him and going, look, we're gonna move on, and while you've been gone, we've been having conversations with other drivers about that 48 car.
It's a business first, right? I mean, that's awful, but it is.
Yeah. So definitely some possibilities on that. But obviously, first and foremost, we hope that these 3 races that Bowman will miss will be the last 3 that he misses due to this. The other big story that came out started circulating early this week, and I am going to stick directly to the facts on this one. Daniel Dye, colleague racer in the Truck Series, has been suspended indefinitely due to derogatory comments regarding IndyCar driver David Malukas that he made on a social stream. Daniel Dye has issued a public apology to David Malukas, as well as the colleague racing and the NASCAR community. Dan, I know this is a story that you felt passionately about. What my question is to you is, what is the pathway back to the good graces here for Daniel Dye, in your opinion?
I mean, unfortunately, we have examples of, the pathway back for drivers when they make insensitive comments, or they have an issue like this in the past. We've seen it from Noah Gragson, we've seen it from Haley Deegan, we've seen it from Kyle Larson. I mean, we have examples of the pathway back. Go to sensitivity training. Make sure you do the classes that NASCAR do, which I do have to give NASCAR credit. They do tailor each path back for the driver and the specific incident, basically. So the training that Kyle Larson went through in 2020 is not the same training that Daniel Dye is going to go through in 2026. They do kind of cater it to each specific incident and each driver, which I kind of do like that. My concern is we keep having these issues. And I get it. We're human. Everyone makes mistakes. That's not, I'm not saying no one's perfect. That's not my thing. My issue is these guys and girls know that at some point they're considered in the public eye. I mean, you run one Truck Series race, you're not really going to be in the public eye too much. But you've been full-time in Xfinity, or now O'Reilly's Auto Parts. You've been full-time in Truck Series now. Like, you should know, okay, there's people following my stream. There's people who see what's going on and what I'm doing. I'm not saying, words are spoken all the time by everybody in the world. It's knowing, one, your audience. I think, we've had a conversation in our group chat where if this was something that he said, just one-on-one with a friend of his, no one would ever known. Would it still been okay? I mean, personally, I kind of try to stick to the safe side and say, hey, let me try not to do anything that's, offensive to anybody, regardless, because you don't always know who your audience is. But I just think overall, this is one of the things where it's best to always err on the side of caution and say, let me not say this. And I know people are like, oh, well, he technically didn't say anything. He didn't call anybody anything. He used specific words. And honestly, that's probably what really hurt the most, as far as like him getting in trouble, is what really did the most damage, was the words that he used and how he described what he was doing, essentially. And honestly, if he would have just changed one word to a different word, that instead of saying what he said, he could have said feminine. It wouldn't have been that much of an issue, probably. But unfortunately, this is the world that we're in, where we live stream everything, and everything's social media, and everything's being consumed by, an audience of some sort and followers. And unfortunately, that's where he's at. I think that this might be a little more damaging with the fact that he's had previous incidents of issues that he's, come up with. I know when he was, I think, in ARCA series, he, had some legal issues that he had to deal with. But I know, Logan's big thing was, what's his road back? What's the road back? I think he's going to have a path. I don't think this is NASCAR saying we're done, never come back and ask again. I don't see NASCAR being that harsh with this specific incident. Granted, this is not his first, chance, or his second chance even. So I don't think it's going to be as easy to get back as, say, Haley Deegan or Noah Gragson. But I do think that, there is a path, and that at some point he'll be reinstated. I foresee him being reinstated before July. I don't think this takes more than a month or two to get finished up, if that. I mean, I think the only reason Kyle Larson was out as long as he did because the sponsors didn't want him back. I think Haley Deegan, Noah Gragson are prime examples of how quickly you can get back in a car and get back in good graces with NASCAR. So overall, I see him. I say probably before the Coke 600, he'll be back in a truck.
I could see that. I don't think it'll. I agree. I don't think it's going to be as long of a road as it was, say, for Kyle Larson. And again, Daniel Dye has issued a public apology. Do know he'll be going through sensitivity training, and like Dan said, NASCAR kind of caters that to each individual's needs there. Always an important thing to remember, just as humans, to be kind to your fellow human. And ultimately, we are humans. We make mistakes. We say things, but as Dan said, know your audience and know that that there can be consequences for the things we say. We've talked a time or two that the things that we say in private could probably end our careers if they were leaked out to the public in such a fashion. But that's part of knowing the audience, if you will, and just knowing, being careful what you say, but always try to treat the people you see with kindness, and that's always the thoughts. Let us know down below what your thoughts are. Dan, what say you?
I just want to say, and this is something that I know I mentioned in our group chat, and multiple other people did. Yes, there is such thing as freedom of speech, but let's also remember that does not mean you're free of consequences. Your words, your actions have consequences, and granted, it might not be you making that thought process and choice, but when you have other responsibilities, aka sponsors and teams and other things that you represent, it is their decision that affects you. So just make sure you think about that before you make your decision.
Yeah, for sure. Plenty of things go into that. That wraps up our Scuff Story segment. I know we're getting close to the hour mark, but we still have a race weekend to preview. So real quick, let's hop into our race preview segment for Darlington. Well, gentlemen, I know that NASCAR as a whole has kind of said, kind of gone away from calling it a throwback weekend. But we've seen a lot of teams that are still taking on the tradition. They're still running throwbacks. I'm seeing a lot of Greg Biffle throwbacks, which always warms my heart. Logan, I know your team's running a Petty throwback, which has got to warm your heart. So Logan, tell us, are you excited for the more or less still throwback weekend at Darlington?
Absolutely, 1,000%. You can't kill throwback weekend. You can try to throw the wrench in it if you'd like, but it's NASCAR's original retro track. Like it was the original super speedway. It was the original granddaddy of them all before Bill France got the idea to build some Frankensteins named Daytona and Talladega. Like I don't understand why they want to go away from the throwback weekend. I get that some argue it's ran its course, and I can respect your view on that. You're allowed to be wrong, but it's just such a it's cool to pay tribute and lineage to the history of this sport and what laid the foundation. And there's been a lot of foundations over the last 77 years. So, yeah, I'm still really excited for what is now the unofficial throwback weekend. I know Dale Jr. mentioned they want to focus more on the actual individuals and not the paint schemes and all that sort of thing on the Dale Jr. download. But, man, it's just really cool to remember where everybody kind of came from, so to speak. And I hope that this continues unofficially for years to come. And if I had my druthers, it would be the official throwback weekend on Southern 500 weekend because it fits. That's like nachos, cheese, and meat. You know what I'm saying? It's like walking tacos. It's Americana. But, it's great that in this 250th year of America, you can't kill throwback weekend. You can't kill America. And I'm ready for Darlington this weekend. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. I always love Darlington and Throwback Weekend. I think that was one of my biggest complaints about my former driver Martin Truex Jr. because it seemed like they never fully jumped on the bandwagon, and I don't know whose fault that was back then, but we never saw a lot of throwbacks from MTJ. But I'm really excited about it. Personally, my heart is touched by all the Biffle throwbacks. Obviously that's kind of paying tribute to a driver we lost tragically over the off season. We've got a Petty throwback. We've got a Dale Senior throwback with Hocevar. They're really pushing that Hocevar's Dale Earnhardt kind of thing. But nonetheless, Dan, I know you're excited for multiple reasons about Darlington. What are your thoughts on the throwback weekend? Dan, your mic is flipped up there.
My bad. Sorry, I didn't see the thing on the screen, so it didn't make sense. But no, I'm always excited with throwback weekend. Personally, I enjoy seeing, paying homage to our, our history. Like that's just, that's the thing you should do as a series. One cool note that I'm excited about personally is that Dave Marcus is the honorary starter. That was to me, that was a legend of NASCAR. He started in 33 Daytona 500s. He raced well into his 60s. I mean, he was a heck of a driver back in the day. But I'm excited that NASCAR still reaches out and has some of their older members of of the NASCAR world come back and hang out. And I remember when they had Richard Petty come back and drive the 43 around the track, and they had Richard Childress come and drive the 3 around the track one year. I just think it's just a cool weekend. I do like that we're getting away from doing like generations of cars throwback, because I thought that was kind of a weird idea. Because NASCAR would say, okay, we're going to do this 8-year gap from point A to point B, but then you'd still have teams doing cars from outside of that, so it didn't really make sense to me. So I think honoring specific drivers and stuff like that would be a much better idea. I'm eager to see how all the teams and NASCAR as a whole brings that together. But like Logan said, that Darlington is the original super speedway. It was the biggest of big back in the day. And I think it's the best track to do it at, because one, it's one of the hardest ones to drive, it's the hardest ones to win. It means that much more to the drivers. So I overall it's always a fun weekend to reminisce of the good old days, as they call it. Even though I think some of the best days were only 20 years ago, back in my heyday. So, but I'm always excited to see throwback weekend at Darlington.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way. I love it. I'm excited for it. And gentlemen, it's time to we've reached that point of the show where I think it's time for us to get some picks going for this weekend. We've got all 3 national series at Darlington this weekend. And so the Truck Series are back in action, the O'Reilly Series on Saturday, and then the Cup on Sunday. So, Logan, you're our special guest here, so we're gonna bring you on, and why don't you give us your picks for Darlington this weekend?
In the trucks, look, call me a man that's been sold by a throwback scheme, but I got to go with Gio Rosario in that 1995 DW throwback. Why not? Why not? Why not? All right. This is Darlington. This is where dreams are made of. Let's go ahead and make it happen for Gio. I know you're a big Gio Rosario guy, Justin. That is, frankly, I know you're working hard to get him on the show here. For the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, look, I don't want to. This is lazy. I get it, low hanging fruit, but Kyle Larson's racing, and I don't. I might be a bit of a fool, but I'm not an idiot. So I'll take Kyle Larson versus the field in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. No disrespect to the field. And Sunday is the kind of the official throwback race. By God, the 43 has got Petty Blue on it. I believe the King and Dale Inman will be in attendance. Eric Jones is really good at Darlington. Why not? Give me Eric Jones one good damn time. Toyota's been strong all year long. It's time Legacy put one together at Eric Jones' best track. There's no reason it can't be this week. Let's make it happen. It's going to happen. Give me Eric Jones in the 43.
All right, a little bit of a home team win there. Dan, you're wearing a Legacy shirt, so do you support Logan?
Come on in here, Dan. Come on in here, Dan. Come on in here.
I support Logan and his delusion at any time. I always support him and his delusion, but I don't agree with it. So sorry, Logan. I do think Toyota is going to be the winner of the Cup race, but I think for the Truck Series, I got to go with a guy who he's running all 3 races this weekend, so he could very well sweep all 3. But I don't think he's going to get all 3. I think he's going to get the truck race. And that name is Christopher Bell, driving the 62 for Stuart Friesen this weekend. As far as O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, one of these days I'm just going to say it without flubbing it up. But I got to go with a different Cup driver who's running. He's also running for JR Motorsports. That means Ross Chastain. I think Kyle Larson is by far probably the better driver of the two, and it'll probably be in better equipment. But I just got a feeling something's going to sneak up and bite him. So I'm going to pick Ross Chastain for the O'Reilly Series. And for Cup, again, like I said, it's going to be a Toyota. But I'm looking at 2 guys. One's going to make Justin happy with Chase Briscoe. And another's going to make our buddy Zach Bell happy with Denny Hamlin. I think this is setting perfectly up for Denny to come back and get a back-to-back win. That's just me personally. Those 2 have won the last 3 races at Darlington. Chase Briscoe won the last of 2025 or 2024, and then they both split one last year. So that's last 3 winners are all from JGR. So I'm going to have to say my pick is Denny Hamlin.
Well, I gotta say, Mama Seeger is picking Chase Briscoe for the Cup race, which I'm very happy with, and I think Briscoe's got a good shot. For the Truck Series, I think a current Cup driver that's in the field that has run very well at Darlington in the past for the lower series. I'm going to go with Carson Hocevar getting the truck win at Darlington. For the O'Reilly Series, I do think Joe Gibbs Racing is going to get a win. And I kind of looked at Christopher Bell, but I remembered that they have a driver who's really, really good at Darlington. And he's a full-time driver for them. And I think Brandon Jones is going to get the win at Darlington in the O'Reilly Series. That's the one track where Brandon Jones just really seems to show up and perform. So I'm going to pick Brandon Jones for that. And for the Cup Series, I want you guys to know that since we've been on Thursdays, I have accurately picked both Cup winners. It's only a streak if it happens twice, and that's where we're at now. So we're going for a three-peat. I really, in my heart of hearts, I want to pick Chase Briscoe, but I don't think it happens. I think we're going to see Hendrick get to victory lane for the first time this season, and I think it's going to be with William Byron. I think Byron gets it done at Darlington this weekend. He's been good at Darlington in the past, and we saw him get very close to this throwback win. If you remember Mr. Logano taking care of business there So I think William Byron gets his first win of the 2026 season. Let us know down in the comments who you have winning this week, and let's get some closing comments. First and foremost, let's bring our producer Peyton back into the fold here. Peyton, you've done a wonderful job of keeping us on time. We're only 10 minutes over, so this has been pretty good here. Peyton, what say you for your closing comments? Do you have any race picks for this weekend?
I always hope it's Ryan Blaney. I do agree with Dan. I could see Denny Hamlin winning.
Back to back for Hamlin. I like it. I did say last week that I thought Vegas was going to be the start of a tear for Hamlin, so it certainly could be. Peyton, what say you for your closing comments tonight?
I wasn't ready for this.
That you know what? That's the best part of it.
I'm excited for another race. Logan and I didn't get to watch much of the race last week because I took him. Well, I shouldn't say I took him. I dragged him to my birthday dinner, which happened to be at the exact same time that the cup race was, and he was just so thrilled. And we did catch stage 3. So
I feel for you, Logan. You would think she's a producer on a racing podcast, on 2 racing podcasts, that she would say, "Oh, let me not schedule it during an event that we should be watching, so we can cover it as a podcast."
And you know how it chaps me on a personal level to boot.
I'm with you. 100%.
It was all I could do to behave myself.
I would have been like, you know what? I'm not going.
I didn't.
You should know better.
Oh, I was eating my steak like I was a pissed off teenager. It was tough. It was tough.
You know, the Chase Briscoe fan in me would say that stage 3 was the only stage you needed to watch for Vegas.
That's all you wanted to watch.
That might be more accurate. Logan, we're glad to have you on the show with us. Always good to have our good buddy Logan on with us. So Logan, what say you for your closing comments?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, y'all. I greatly appreciate the invite. And I was meant to come on a couple of weeks ago, and some personal matters got in the way. Luckily, they are resolving themselves and getting better every day, thankfully. And so I just appreciate you guys having me on. And I'll tell you what, if I'm right about that Eric Jones prediction, I might just invite myself on next week. But no matter what, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I got to be back on for the Southern 500, right? So. But thank you guys so much for being so inviting to me. I would be remiss if I didn't at least plug my podcast one good time. If you enjoyed some of these wild Loganity takes, check out the Racing Angle every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. If you could pay attention and like and subscribe, greatly appreciate it. And again, just appreciate all your guys' support and the love, and could not be more thankful for where we've all come from when we started this thing to where we are now on both a personal and professional level. And so I love you guys. I still love running on Scuffs, and I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm watching most weeks, and I'm damn proud of what you guys are doing. So thanks again, and have a hell of a show next week unless Eric Jones wins, in which case I'm taking over.
Hey, we're gonna have Logan on plenty of times this season. I don't think it's our best plan to try to schedule it around a legacy win because those don't happen all that often. So
Or ever.
But we will have you on for sure. Multiple races to come, and again, like Logan said, if you enjoy seeing all the Loganity takes, be sure to check out the Racing Angles on Wednesday nights, where Logan takes on one of the hardest feats, in my opinion, for podcasting, and doing one all by himself. as far as the things are going. So be sure to go into the comments because those comments help those solo shows roll. So be sure to keep them coming. So Logan, we appreciate you and having you on. Dan, what do you and your legacy shirt have to say for your closing comments?
Well, this might be the only time I ever wear this shirt. So no, I had to wear it for my buddy Logan. And as soon as I heard he was going to be on the show tonight, I went and I ran and I changed shirts. So this is for you, bud. I hope you enjoy it. It might be the only time you ever see me in it. So, but I hope you enjoyed it. But we always love having you on, bud. Anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome. I don't care what Justin says. I got room to invite you into the studio. So, even if he doesn't want you here, I'll bring you on. So
I appreciate it. And producer Peyton, you got to clip this some of this video here when Dan wants to give me too much business, if you know what I'm saying.
I'm sure there'll be screenshots of me wearing this shirt in the group chat at some point. It's okay, but no, I'm happy you're here. So glad to have you, Peyton. So happy to have you back on with us as well. So, but we have a weekend of racing in Darlington. It's throwback weekend. I'm excited to watch. I know I'll be sitting in front of my TV, glued to the screen all weekend for the racing. I don't care about March Madness. I've never been a college basketball fan. Yeah, I'll fill out a bracket and keep up with that, but that's about it as far as college basketball for me. So NASCAR is my only sport really in concern right now. So until we kick off with the NFL season or the college football season later this year, I'm nothing but NASCAR. So. I'll see you guys next Thursday at 8:00.
Yeah, we look forward to it. Thank you to everybody who's in the comments. We've got some family members, we've got friends, anybody who wants to come in, whether you know something about NASCAR or whether you just want to listen to us ramble about it. We love to hear your opinions, and we love to have you guys in the comments. It means so much to us. And we're glad to have you here. So be sure to tune in next week where we'll talk about all the throwback racing action in Darlington. So we'll see you guys next week.